Hello, folks.
Happy
Welcome.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, and welcome to the Open Couch Podcast. It's me, Will, and with me is Jordan. And
Yeah.
boy, howdy, so much stuff has happened over the course of the weeks, almost months, I think, that haven't been on the channel.
We've been on the channel 2 weeks ago with Smash Direct. And also, if you're not buying NVIDIA stock right now, what are you doing with your life?
Yeah. So we're just sort of gonna chat about some of the various news things that I've picked up on and Jordan's picked up on over the course of these weeks. With a lot of the highlights, of course, being Stan Lee's unfortunate passing away, which was just, I mean, it was expected, but it doesn't make it less sad, you know?
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely been a hero for me, especially wanting to get into comics and animation. His art and just storytelling was definitely influential.
Yeah,
He will definitely be missed. But for living to 95, I mean, that's well beyond what I'd expectancy many people have.
yeah, like it's insane. 95 years old.
Yeah. I mean, he's had a very full and very respectable life. So may he
Abs-
rest in peace.
yeah, absolutely. And to any of those guys on the internet that try to deface him by putting up some dumb news about him that isn't supported, get something better to do with your time. That's all I have
Yeah.
to say. Just try and
No.
do something a bit more productive.
Yeah, maybe take a page out of his book.
Yeah,
So, no, yeah, that's definitely been some of the more tragic news recently was
yeah,
family's passing. He will definitely be missed. But it is also good news that he and his daughter are actually working on a new superhero. And I'm excited to see if that actually does get into publication. It will be kind of his last work in a way.
yeah. As well as any cameos, whatever cameos he made in whichever movies.
Yeah, the upcoming Avengers movie will be his last cameo.
Damn.
He already recorded it, so that's
There's.
actually
Oh
kind of
God. That.
that's the send off.
Oh God. That send off though sounds a lot like an old meme. Or not meme, but it sounds like an old Reddit post, I think, where somebody once said like, it'll be Avengers 4 and everybody will be enjoying the end of the credits and everything, and then at the very end it'll say in loving memory Stan Lee, and
Yeah,
we don't
no,
that
that's what it's gonna be.
that predicted the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
So.
but past that news, there's also been a whole lot of really, really, really awesome stuff that happened.
Yeah.
One of which is the Castlevania Netflix series premiering its second season in October.
Yeah.
And holy hell, it is a ride. It is probably, no, it is the greatest video game adaptation ever. Like, I'm making that
It's
claim.
really, really well done. Yeah. Like that's a heavy claim. I don't know if it's forever going to be defendable, but the team definitely has passion for what they're doing.
Yes, and if you've seen the series, both either you, Jordan, or the audience, if you've seen the series, episode 7 is literally perfection. Like,
Yeah,
this.
I watched about half of season 2 while I was in DC 2 weeks ago,
Ah,
and
well,
I haven't finished it yet. But I will say that I think it does a lot more than the first 4 episodes, and by God, it's amazing. I do love it. I think by far one of the best adaptations I've seen of any property, not just a video game.
right. And when I say episode 7, like, oh man, I can't say anything else for spoiler's sake. It's gonna
It's
blow
been
your.
out for about a month, but yeah, for now I say it's still fairly recent. Don't ruin any plot necessary points, but just what Dracula's doing, how his minions are set up, like the story is well fleshed out.
Yeah, and funny enough, one would.
So if any of y'all are on the fence about watching it, just give it a chance. It's actually really good.
Yeah, give it a chance. Unless if like, and if you're a bit squeamish to gore and you're not really a fan of that, I completely understand if you decide not to,
Yeah,
because
it's not that gory though.
yeah,
Like even the first 4 episodes. Look, the first Castlevania part was out for like a year now. I think he chops off like one of the priest's fingers or something, but they don't really like, zoom in and show, too much gore. It's
yeah,
just,
they're not.
like, hey, that's
It's
fine. It's happening.
it doesn't frame the gore as gratifying like in something like Elfen Lied.
Yeah, no, it ain't like Alpha Blind.
It just kind of shows the gore as like this is the consequence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just very to the point about it. It's not like gratuitous gore.
Yeah.
Enjoy your freaking edgy teenage tendencies are
Yeah.
being fulfilled.
And before the
Yeah.
second season premiered, I had been keeping up with the series on Twitter, specifically I guess one of the large creators, named Samuel Dietz, who's like a really good animator that's working on Castlevania, as and I think he did one for a game, like some kind of RPG, and man, people are gonna kill me for not knowing this detail. I just can't remember, but his name's Samuel Dietz, and he also worked on the series with the producer Adi Shankar, who is this guy that has his work has been consistently making like gritty, bloody series. Like there's this Power Rangers fan film that he made that was like sort of post-apocalyptic, bloody and gritty, and it was actually very well received, even by a lot of the original Power Ranger staff.
Sure, there's nothing wrong with approaching, darker visuals or themes in media, so long as you do it well.
Oh yeah, no problem there at all. But I bring him up because it's been confirmed that Shankar is planning on working on a Devil May Cry TV series, which just which made me drop my jaw. The only time I've ever seen Devil May Cry be attempted in a TV format is the anime, like the 13 episode anime from like the 2000s, early 2000s, I think.
Yeah, it was like 2005 or 2007.
Yeah, around
it
that.
was the same guys that were the Japanese cartoon that did it.
Yeah, and it's not that show's bad. It just kind of felt a bit muted. It doesn't, but with Shankar at the helm on this, oh my God, this could prove fruitful. And
Yeah.
I remember the promotional the first image he showed that he's going to be working on this was of Shankar himself dressed up as Dante, which
They
was
would.
which was awesome. Although I believe that he's confirmed that the show will be animated, not live action.
Thank God.
Yeah, because Lord knows, after seeing Castlevania, I'm like, their animation for their choreography for their animation is just too on point to switch to live action for no reason.
Well, not only that, I hate to say it, most adaptations, even to an extent the Marvel adaptations, like with, Netflix and a lot of these streaming services that will probably get the show, they suck. Okay? No one is doing justice to video games or comic properties in live action because you just have to change too much to what's possible in these worlds in order to even make it feasible for a real actor to be able to pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
Animation is simply the best medium for this.
Yeah.
And you need to have artists that understand how to do that but still bring a mature tone because at least in America, we live in a society where animation is usually looked at as more of a childish endeavor.
Yeah. That's why that's why you have people.
Yeah.
That's why you have people complaining that anime films get snubbed at the Oscars, but in reality, it's just that Hollywood is too busy patting itself on the back for its live action stuff, and The only times that it ever acknowledges anime is just so that they can get into the good whims of another Hollywood bigwig, like when Spirited Away won an Academy Award. That wasn't
It deserved it.
it does. I mean, yeah, of all of Ghibli's movies, it did deserve it. But I'm saying that the intentions of the Academy for that were not so much, hey, this film actually is an important landmark for anybody that needs to see animation. It was just more like, hey, this Pixar dude that's got a lot of business and he's got a lot of money. He really likes this movie, so we'll get into his good wishes by including it in the Academy's, thing.
But I'll also say that, sadly, animation and like the Ghibli films, I feel have been affected because they were closely tied to Disney in general.
Yeah.
There have been actual people who judge for the Academy and have said they try to skip actually watching the animated films if they can, because they do believe it's more of a thing they do with their children and not on their own. Like, it doesn't have an actual story or artistic merit, which is sad.
Yeah.
Because especially with Ghibli, we know that's not the case.
Yeah, exactly. And it just ends up in this case of, like, the parents just see anime, like, people in that sort of realm believe that animation's just a distraction for the kiddies rather than anything that can hold any kind of level of substance better than live action could ever. Like,
which is sad.
Yeah. And it kind of makes me wonder about something like Silent Hill 2, for instance. Like, that film, that game has a phenomenal story with phenomenal themes, but
definitely. But good luck putting that type of psychological, message into a film.
Yeah, or even getting people that aren't gamers to understand the themes that it tackles with any kind of serious thought, because, they're just going to think like, oh, no, it's just a video game.
Well, you can, but, like, it's what I had to do. One of my exes really love, like, the Resident Evil and Silent Hill movies. Like, the first thing that really caught her off guard is when I was talking about the series, I never brought up the Red Queen, because guess what? She doesn't exist in the games whatsoever. But to the tenets of it's the most necessary narrative plot point in the whole thing.
Yeah, usually when doing game adaptations in Hollywood movies, the best idea is to probably do something that isn't that close to the source material you're working off of. Take for instance the Detective Pikachu trailer that dropped a while back.
Oh heck yeah! That looks so amazing.
It looks actually really fun. I did not expect Ryan. Like, I heard rumors of Ryan Reynolds actually playing Pikachu. I didn't expect him to actually go through with it.
I never heard any rumors that this was even going to film or a possibility of becoming a film. But Ryan Reynolds' Pikachu does not surprise me one bit.
Yeah.
Like, that man's acting career and what he is interested in taking part in? No. Pika Pika, motherfucker.
Yeah.
This makes sense. End of the day.
And I just find it so good because since they decided to go with Detective Pikachu, they're not held within the boundaries of the larger Pokemon fandom's perception of the traditional story. There's not going to be any gym badges. There's not going to be any Elite Four, as far as we know. No big grand adventures. It's a detective tale. It's sort of a neo-noir story, and you know what?
Mm-hmm.
That's good, because now you're not going to have as much of a polarizing story than if you just went with the regular games.
Exactly, it's its own thing. So.
It's its own thing, and that's what they pulled off with Castlevania. That's what they pulled off with what I guess they pulled off with for the Resident Evil movies.
Pretty much.
And that's what they're pulling off here with Detective Pikachu. On top of being able to add in hilarious scenes of Mr. Mime being interrogated and him miming for Pikachu to shove it. That was
That was pretty great.
That was pretty great.
That was pretty great. But no, I'm absolutely just stoked the Detective Pikachu thing. I also love the fact they used so many practical props in the film. Like it's definitely aided by animation and CGI. It would be impossible to do without it. But I got to see like some of the props, like the Greninja head and things like that they were using for reference. And God, I'm like, this looks amazing. And I actually like the art direction they went with some of these Pokemon.
Yeah,
Considering the fact, they're taking something that's so cartoony and trying to fit it into a realistic world.
yeah, and for anybody that is complaining about how, the Pokemon look ugly and how they, they just don't look good and they should just go with a different art style. You realize
No.
translating a video game monster into the real world will cause them to not look as cute and cuddly, right?
Yeah, you would not be able to get away with yes next to a live person.
Yeah, I mean,
Like that
Pikachu's
would
gonna.
just cause a lot of issues. And
Yeah,
Pikachu's freaking adorable. There's no one who can convince me otherwise.
yeah. The
He
only
looks
one that
perfect.
the only one that I wasn't so sure of was Jigglypuff, but only because I was like I didn't expect fur. I expected it to be sort of like a kind of texture that resembled
Rubber.
more of a balloon because it is called the balloon Pokemon.
Yeah, I get that, and I've been hearing that a lot. Always consider evolution and the Wigglytuff to be kind of furry. It started getting a tail. It's always had that hair school, and I was like, okay, it looks like a balloon, and it's called a balloon because of the simple art style. But translating it to real life, I was like, okay, yeah, I probably, you know,
Yeah,
like it doesn't really surprise me. It's one of those things where I'm not really worried about it. I'm like, yeah, it's just a stylistic choice. They could have made it rubbery, but after looking at Mr. Mime's skin texture, I'm also like, I want to see as little of that as possible.
right.
Because let's face it, it would just be a pinker version of Mr. Mime's face.
Right.
And
I still
I don't think anyone's going to like that.
Yeah, and I even still say that the Bulbasaurs that appeared in that brief shot of them walking across the river, that looked great. Like that looked legitimately great.
It did.
Oh,
Like, the whole scene looked gorgeous to me. And the thing is, I'm getting real vibes from Avatar. The Blue Alien movie Avatar, not the horrible
not ask
Shyamalan remake.
yeah, not Last Bender Avatar. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
almost kind of whimsical, and hopefully there will be no metals called unobtainium in that in Detective Pikachu. Seriously,
hopefully not.
that is the stupidest name you could possibly give to a fictitious metal because it's so on the nose. You want to go up to whoever made that decision and just slap them in the face. It's like creative juices were not running high in that production.
Probably not.
Let's see. Anything else? Uh, when it came down to that trailer, it I ended up seeing a YouTube video about it, and they brought up the prospect of like, oh, since this is like a Japanese property thing being made into a Western film, this could be our first actually good attempt at this. And
Yeah.
then they brought up a movie that I'm surprised has been going under the radar lately.
Okay.
Alita Battle Angel.
Honestly, has it even gone to theaters yet?
Yeah, well, it's been its release date was pushed back to February of 2019, and I believe there's a specific release date, but I can't remember what that release date is for the life of me.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, I've seen the trailers. I'm not against it. I will say that looking at how the original manga was translated, I'm not a fan of the art direction.
Well, here's the thing.
But
Well,
I,
trying to sell Alita's sort of like inhuman look, while still trying to keep her not looking like a bug-eyed monster. They certainly
Well,
made her look a lot better now than she did in the original trailer. I will say that much.
yeah, they definitely toned it down from the original trailer. But the fact is, in the comic, she barely looks any different than a human, except when her robotics are exposed.
Right.
So, since everyone looks that way, I don't see the reason to actually make her look any more manga than necessary. Because the fact is, the designer going for a stylized look with her. She's supposed to blend in.
Right. And
And that's my thing. The original trailer, it's like, okay, what are we getting at here? But yeah,
I
I
understand.
don't know. I'm gonna see it when it comes out, but I'm just like, that's one where I can see that uncanny valley. Like, what are you thinking with this design direction? Definitely comes in.
Yeah, and I understand where you're coming from on this. I personally have not read the manga, but I've been told a uh, by a compatriot of mine in my D&D group that it's very good, and you know I should check it out if I'm gonna try and understand where the film is going. But I think I would rather watch the movie when it comes out first and then read the manga to sort of think back to the comparisons that can be made of like, oh hey, that scene was derived from this part of the manga and so on and so
Okay.
forth.
Well, I think that's one thing. Like, I need to reread it because I haven't read it in years. But for me, it's like, since I read a lot more manga than I do seeing film, I would actually really like to say have a discussion with you when it does finally come out and see from two different approaches to it what we think.
Yeah,
Let
kind
the
of
time
like
contrast.
yeah, kind of like the Death Note movie with various
Oh
other
god.
kinds of reviewers.
Oh
I mean,
god.
say what you will about the film's quality itself. Willem Dafoe killed it as Ryuk.
Oh yeah. I'll give you that. But I'm just gonna say anything made by Netflix right now, based on an existing property, is probably gonna be shit.
Except for Castlevania.
Except for Castlevania. But then again, it's so animation may be their saving grace. They brought back Voltron, and I have to admit, I'm actually surprised with the quality of She-Ra. Like,
And then you've got
they,
Dragon Prince.
I've yet to see it. I've yet to see it, but I've heard good things. I'm just like, man, this one doesn't actually look like my kind of thing, but I'm hearing good things, and I'm like, I may want to give it a shot.
Yeah, it's got some pretty jarring stuff about the animation on it though. Like the 3D models have like a lower frame rate while they're filmed. Like it looks like stop motion,
Okay.
but not in the intentional way like with Kirby and the Rainbow Curse.
All right. Well, one thing, too, is I don't know if I'm thinking of the right show. To me, it's like Ruby. I'm like, do we need another Ruby?
Well, Ruby's gotten a lot better with Volume 6. Like, oh my
Yeah,
god.
pretty much. I'm like, from what
They
I'm seeing of Volume 6 right now, which I don't want to get into because they're still working on releasing episodes, I'm like, Ruby's figuring out kind of where it needs to go.
Yeah, and even though there's only and I'm going to say it like this, even though there's been episodes released where there isn't any action. Like we haven't really gotten any action since episode 1. People
Mm-hmm.
aren't really complaining about that like they did about Volume 5 because the narrative, albeit the narrative has never been Ruby's strong point, the
Yeah,
narrative's at least much better this time around and doesn't feel like you're getting pulled in 30 different directions.
exactly. It's getting focused. It's actually trying to find an identity and tell a story this season, which I'm okay with that. We don't have the awesome action fight scene director that started the series with us anymore.
Right. As sad as
We,
that is. As sad as
as
that
sad as
is.
it is, we need to kind of break away from that and see what we can do with the world he created beyond just epic fight scenes.
Yes, and it's not like we're going to be bereft of that. In fact, I imagine that we'll
Yeah.
probably be getting an epic fight scene. I say either this episode or the episode after that. In episodes 5 or 6. That's what I'm predicting.
Yeah. So, I'm all for it. I think it's definitely something that needs to happen. But I don't mind them taking a step back and really just analyzing story elements and world building instead of like where they kind of were doing a side series on world building between seasons.
Oh yeah, the
Like,
world those World of Remnant things that nobody really
yeah,
cared for.
no one really cared for them. They honestly, I went back and watched them again. They're not the most interesting. I'm like, I get what they were trying to do, but at the same time, it was not the right direction. A lot of that could have just been covered in story or during an episode or two. And it's not bad to have kind of a filler episode where they just act like normal people and some of this stuff naturally comes up in conversation.
Yeah, yeah. And now we're actually gonna and this season has been starting to give us a lot of answers to stuff. Like they've been playing up the like in Volume 5 they started to play up the prospect of Osmond being really shady, and in episodes 2 through 4 we got our reasons why now, as well as Salem's backstory at fucking last.
Yeah, she kind of came out of nowhere, in my opinion. I was
Yeah.
like, what? What? The Grimm, they have a leader? What?
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
thought they were supposed to be just some natural freaking force of nature
I still say
based on evil.
I still say that that the Silver Eyes were the most out of left field thing for me. Like I remember when I first heard Crow dispensing about them in Volume 3, my first reaction wasn't like, "Oh, how intriguing." My first reaction was, "Wait, huh?"
Yeah. I think that was a lot of people's first reaction. I mean, though Silver Eyes wasn't too much of a stretch because, well, she is the title character.
Well, yeah, but if she was the title character and they wanted to maybe not throw too many ideas at the wall, have her be a maiden or something. I don't know.
Well, no, I think it's better for her not to be. And I could probably have an hour-long discussion on why I think the decisions made about character portrayal is for the best, even with John. I think they're doing a lot better job making him a healer
Yeah.
and actually giving him a resonance finally. And it's because, I think originally losing, I keep forgetting his name, drawing a blank. I am sorry for that because he was a really good guy. I should remember him.
Monty Ull.
Monty Hume. I wanted to say you. I was like, it's not Monty Hume. I don't want this chance, but Monty Hume. Essentially, he would have been such a big part that by season 3, when these characters were first being built, and we were still getting that original fight choreography, a lot of future planning, it seems, was not prepared in advance.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of it was made up on the spot. In fact, it's been confirmed that Monty made up the maidens after Volume 2.
Yeah.
Meaning he didn't exactly put the most thought into what those and that kind of ramification would mean. And
exactly.
I equate like I kind of think of it like this. Monty's work for Ruby, and pretty much Ruby in general, I see as the same caliber of storytelling as Kingdom Hearts and Metal Gear Solid. They have the plotting and ideas and continuous structure of B movies with these little nuggets of awesomeness just strewn about all over.
Yeah, like there is so much.
There's so much that's awesome to dissect and so much coolness to experience with it, but it's all also in the service of a story that you're gonna have to realize is not gonna be enriching. It's not gonna be the next Avatar because it's not aiming to be the next Avatar.
No, it isn't. And also, one thing to say about it is with Metal Gear, with Kingdom Hearts, with all these things, there's just been factors to the storytelling that have impeded progression. There's a reason we pretty much had to wait half an eternity to get Kingdom Hearts 3. And I feel Ruby had some similar growing pains. It's not that, the story or structure was faulted from the beginning, or that it was trying to be something it just was never destined to be, but more that the people working on it and just the way in which it was planned out weren't actually conducive to the further structuring of the story.
Yeah, exactly. Like their workforce, just in general, was really counterproductive to them. And a lot of people, like, this is the thing that drives me up the wall sometimes with production process and how people react to a negative side of some story. I remember it was a reaction video of the premiere of Volume 6. And the guy was basically making, I guess, a joke, but it was something I misconstrue it as kind of being, you know, just kind of a dumb comment. He's saying, "Oh my God, effort! Honest to God, effort!" And I just shook my head because I'm like, do you guys possibly have any inkling as to how much hell they probably have to go through to make all this? Not for lack of effort, but because their parent company, Fullscreen, probably caused them to be unable to work at a proper pace because, you know, corporations aren't run by people anymore. They're just run by greedy machines. And also just a whole bunch of external factors that have caused them to slow production. In fact, I don't remember how long ago this was, but I remember there was a time where power shut off completely in the animation department. Like the animation department at one point in time during the production of Volume 5 had no power. So I imagine that must have affected them pretty heavily.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's just, you know, there's a lot that goes into making animation. There's a lot that goes into just writing a world in a series. And it's hard to jump the gun and say, like, they haven't been putting the effort in. I do think they could have been doing better up until now. But I also understand that, yeah, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that us as fans don't necessarily take into account.
Yeah, I see criticism as like this. If you want to criticize something, like whether it be a game, a book, or a film, that's fine. Criticize the product on its own merits. The second you try to criticize the person making said product, that's when you need to do a bit of research and try and understand the deeper situation as to what their decision-making process was for these story beats and so forth. That's what I think. Like, I'm confident that if people started researching more into how the production cycle for stuff like Ruby or Kingdom Hearts actually goes, maybe people will be a bit less harsh on the creators, because they'll understand, like, oh, they're under these corporate umbrellas that are just basically nothing but deadlines.
Yeah. Deadlines are important.
Deadlines are important, and sometimes you have to make cuts for time. Like, no creative project ends up at the same at the end that it does at the beginning stages. If it did, for Kingdom Hearts as an example, Sora would be a part lion kid with a chainsaw sword. We would have John Travolta as Forrest Gump instead of Tom Hanks. The world would be a very different place with that.
That's right. True.
I'm not saying you don't criticize. I'm just saying that if you want to start talking about the people behind the product, you got to start researching into that situation. That's why you got to use more general terms like the writers or general terms like the production. Like easily the best example I can think of this is Yahtzee Crawshaw with zero punctuation. Now, granted with his case, he does talk about the people behind the products, but anytime he does, he only really brings them up as either a joke towards them or a joke that is backed up by fairly decent research. And sometimes the people that he rips on kind of deserve it. Like when he talked about Deus Ex in his review of that game. And he would make jokes about John Romero or make jokes about Gabe Newell. He's not meaning all these malicious acts. He's not coming across like he's doing personal attacks anytime he talks about someone. And sadly, a lot of people have trouble trying to convey that.
No, I have to admit, Nazi's done a lot of good multiple mediums.
Yeah, but
Uh,
in general, the sort of thing to take away from this, the thing to take away from this conversation is, Ruby Volume 6 has been killing it lately, and
oh yeah.
and so far, hopefully things will continually get better as things go on. And criticize the work, that's fine. Criticize the people. Do your damn research.
Pretty much. And I mean, I'll admit, myself, I'm probably not the best person to be criticizing, but that's why you gotta take all these things that can happen in the background into account.
Yeah, gotta take.
Because
You gotta.
I know I'm not fully informed. I just know what I've seen.
Yeah, be a bit more informed. Don't jump the gun and think that creators are being lazy, or that just because winter took so long to come in Game of Thrones, that doesn't mean George R. R. Martin hasn't thought of the winter.
Mm. Yep.
Like,
so, how do you feel about Diablo?
how do I feel about what? Diablo? I have no real interest towards Diablo.
Okay, then I'm definitely. I know I teased it at the end of the hash video. I didn't know if I wanted to do it or not, but I guess I'm small right now on that name. Just Blizzard in general.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're on a Blizzard kick thanks to that recent Ash video you put out.
Yeah, it's just when I am home and I do have my system. Battle.net is kind of a nice place to go.
Yeah.
Like, unlike Steam, Battle.net has a small library of choice and has a lot of players.
Yeah, and on top of that, since Diablo's now on the Switch, it's gonna get a bit of a boost, hopefully.
Oh yeah, I'm still gonna pick that up soon, just for the Ganondorf skin. I just want to play as Ganondorf.
And I ought to say, lately I've been playing a lot of Dragon Quest XI. And if anybody has seen, I have done multiple streams on that game, but I decided to stop streaming because I needed to vary up my content on streams. Boy, howdy, that game is awesome. It's really, really good. And the reason I bring it up is due to the amount of sales that Dragon Quest XI has been able to get, Square Enix have come out to say that the Nintendo Switch version will become available to the West.
Yay.
So, Jordan, if you want to play DQ11, you can wait next year when the Switch version comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm probably going to do that because I'm really looking at getting my capture card soon. So.
Yeah, I would have wanted to do a capture card thing, but sadly, my dear old pawn shop computer does not have the system requirements for the graphics card that I was looking at.
And this is the time where we beg anyone.
Folks, a bit of knowledge. Here's a knowledge bomb for you guys. Don't get a PC from a pawn shop. Don't go cheap. Don't go cheap on this stuff, because PCs are just a huge kind of investment to make, and you got to really prepare yourself and take your time on this. If you don't, then you're going to regret it. You're going to end up with a game that you're unable to play on your computer, and it's just not going to be a good time for you.
Nope.
But in any case, things have happened, and at least I can start recording stuff for this channel now. And that was one of my objectives when I got this computer. But I know that once I do get the powerful enough PC for it, though, I'm gonna replay DQ11 on here, and thanks to the power of mods, I will certainly mod the hell out of Dragon Quest XI.
Oh, yeah.
The very first thing I'm going to do is probably change the soundtrack so that it's not MIDI music. Have you heard about the people's distaste of DQ11's music?
Actually, no, I have not heard.
Okay, so Dragon Quest XI, the Dragon Quest series has had a bit of a reputation for not exactly having the best quality of music. Not that the music itself is bad, it's more like the way that the music is done in the games, it's mostly done with MIDI music. You know what MIDI music is?
I do, but I did not know that it did.
Yeah, DQ11 has MIDI music, which is kind of odd considering that the opening of the game is done with that beautiful orchestrated version of the Dragon Quest theme. But yeah, the game has MIDI music done to it because the composer, the veiled excuse that the composer got on this is that he simply didn't want people to be distracted from the prospect of getting the orchestrated soundtrack, which I think was a Japanese exclusive special edition thing. But here's the dumb logic behind that. I'm confident that if people like hearing an orchestrated soundtrack in the game, they would still buy the CD, despite it being available in the game. You know, like.
But if we enjoy the music anyway, it's not like we'll buy the CD so we can play it instead and just mute the game.
Yeah, and then you've got this composer's worldviews, which are just eye-openingly, just, I don't want to say close-minded, but they are certainly not views that Square Enix support. Like this composer, I don't want to say the worst thing that he's been on record as to not supporting, but he's the kind of man that scoffs at the prospect of LGBT people having higher suicide rates or LGBT people having these massive struggles. Like he does not believe in that stuff at all. And Square Enix has had to come out and apologize for this composer for what he said and what his beliefs are, and they forced him to apologize for what he said, but he was not exactly thrilled at apologizing.
And I'm going to also say one thing too. A lot of Western mentalities, especially if he is Japanese, may not necessarily be shared. So I may want to throw that some of his beliefs, although against ours, could just be cultural. And if he's not tied directly to Square, then he's allowed to voice his opinions.
That's
it's
true.
It's okay if they're a little different or off.
That's true.
I believe, okay with what you're saying with the suicide rates, yeah, that is statistically proven, and wrong what he believes, but culturally, he just may not be able to see the math and actually accept it.
Yeah, and also there's the whole thing of there's that whole thing of how there are a lot of Japanese media creators that have a lot of the same sort of hang-ups that you see in a lot of Western ones. I remember there's this one director for, honestly, a really beloved romance series. Have you ever heard of Recovery of an MMO Junkie? It was a small little romance anime based around MMORPGs that premiered, I think, either 2017 or 2016. And it was a nice series, but the director is apparently a bit of a Nazi. He actually has a lot of Nazi sympathetic tweets and everything, which, it sucks, but it's that whole thing of separate the art from the artist. Art should stand on its own merit.
It's true. You should judge art on its own merit, but sometimes it is hard to create that disconnect. You gotta admit, sometimes, the person creating it does need to keep their mouth shut and make sure that it doesn't leak into the art itself.
Admittedly,
lest it represent their views.
Yeah, admittedly, it is a bit of a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. Definitely have a love for the Nazis.
But overall, the composer's worldviews should not reflect the quality of the game. Absolutely not. The game is still fantastic, an easy 9 out of 10 RPG. So Jordan, if you plan on being able to get any RPGs for your Switch besides Octopath Traveler,
Octopath comes first.
Yeah, Octopath will come first on you. get Octopath Traveler and get Dragon Quest XI. I guarantee you that you will not regret that decision.
All right. I mean, both look really good.
Yeah. Oh, I just remembered something.
Okay.
The Game Awards, the candidacies of the Game Awards have come
Oh
out
yeah, I've
recently.
actually been voting.
You've been voting too?
Yeah.
I voted for Octopath to have best art direction easily.
Okay, yeah, I actually agree with that. Does deserve its nomination, and it does definitely have some of the best art direction I've seen.
Absolutely. The art direction.
Especially for a sprite-based game.
Yeah. And then one thing that absolutely surprised me was Celeste had way more nominations and way more categories than I expected it to.
Oh, me too. Like, I'll admit, I've barely heard anything about Celeste this month, and I've not played it yet. I've only seen a few screenshots, and I'm like,
I played it and streamed.
Is this a good game?
I streamed.
Oh,
I streamed the whole thing on
right.
PS4.
Nice.
And I have to say, it's a good game. It's a very good game. But I thought it had run its course. I didn't expect it to resonate with enough people for it to have gotten a nomination.
Yeah, well, I definitely did, and well, I love platformers. I love side scrollers, so I've been thinking about picking it up, especially now that Switch is doing its Black Friday sales.
Yeah. Take advantage of that.
30% off.
Take advantage of that Black Friday sale, folks. And for love of God, purchase your stuff online. Nobody should have to be trampled this Friday.
I am a trampler, but yeah. No, is there anything you're gonna try specifically for Black Friday?
Anything I'm thinking about for Black Friday? Not really.
Okay.
I'm a simple man. I don't really require a whole lot.
No, that's understandable.
But yeah, other votes that I did was obviously I voted Yuri Lowenthal as best performance in a video game because his performance as Peter Parker / Spider-Man was just like, even though I have not played Marvel Spider-Man myself, I've heard enough gameplay stuff to hear his performance, and he is rock solid as Peter Parker.
Honestly, even though I haven't played the game, I've seen a lot of video of it, and I don't have a PS4. I admit I actually voted for it to be considered the best action game of the year.
Really?
Yeah. Like, from what I've seen and really what I've heard, especially that performance by Yuri, I have to say, like, Insomniac, or I forget which.
It's Insomniac, yeah.
Insomniac. I've always loved what they do, and holy God, they have knocked it out the park. Like, that game really deserves getting recognition it gets.
Yeah, it's certainly a special game, and
yeah, and as I said earlier,
certainly more special than the certainly more special than the piss poor reception of The Quiet Man. Yeah. Which sucks because I kind of like the prospect of having video game characters that have some level of a disability. In fact, I still hope for the eventual case of getting a Daredevil game.
That would be amazing. They had one planned for PS2.
They had one planned, and it would have been like this cool sort of take on the Batman Arkham. Well, I say Batman Arkham, that came out after this game's planning, but
it would have pretty much predated Arkham.
It would have predated Arkham, and it had this cool mechanic where you could be able to attack an enemy's weak points by using Daredevil's sonar vision to, like, say, attack a guy in the knee because he had knee surgery, or punch a guy in the shoulder because he's just got a bad arm, you know? Yeah. I just thought, like, paying attention to details of the enemies in combat, I just thought that was brilliant.
Oh, me too. And for its time, that was really groundbreaking. Quite amazing to pull off well.
Yeah, and I still hope for Rocksteady to do a Flash game, a game on the Flash, because
man, I'm sorry, when it comes to speed and video games, like, I love it. I love racing games. Let me say, you can go wrong 10 ways to hell that way, though. Sonic 06 speed sections, that's what I fear in a Flash game.
Yeah, but honestly, the plans. Have you seen the Digino Gaming video that was about Up canceled Flash game?
I have not, but I have heard someone actually thought of one, and that is just one character I love. I would love for Barry Allen to be in video games and
Well,
but I'm like,
yeah,
this is not necessarily a property that's going to play well. I
yeah,
hated Super Speed in Saints Row 4. I just like making people move really fast in 3D environments without putting them in rails is not necessarily a good thing.
yeah. And the whole thing with the Flash was just first. It looked promising because it seemed like the people that were making it actually understood some differences in the character because it wasn't going to be Barry Allen playing as the Flash. It was going to be Wally West.
Really?
Yeah, it was going to be it was
Wow.
going to be Wally West. In other words, the Flash of the DC animated universe.
Okay. Yeah, like I think,
And I think
the
Ryan.
Flash, I think Barry Allen, but yeah, Wally West would have been a good pick too. It's just again, gameplay is where I'm
Well, the gameplay of it was going to be this neat idea. It was going to be a subversive take on the Dead Rising's time side quest deal. Like you know how in Dead Rising, how you have like these side quests that you have a limited amount of time to do, and if you don't do them, then that's just it for that quest.
No, but I have heard of the mechanics. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, in this Flash game, how it would have worked was that you could be able to do so many of these different kinds of side quests at once. So, like, say you're running down the city streets and you hear over your police radio, oh, hey, there's a bank robbery going on. At the same time, there's also a man about to jump off a roof.
you
Because,
gotta make a hard choice.
well, no, you couldn't make a hard, you don't have to make a hard choice because you're playing as the Flash, the fastest man alive. So,
This is true.
so
So you don't have to make a hard choice. So long as you don't bump into anything.
yeah, pretty much. And
So I guess you could technically use the fact you can vibrate walls to maybe account for some of that, but it's like
yeah, they would have been playing with a lot of the Flash's varied powers because a lot of people would think like, oh, super speed is only running really fast. Oh no, son.
no, it's
Oh
not.
no, son. That is the furthest thing from the truth. The Flash can be able to create apparitions of himself with after images. He can phase through solid walls. He can run up buildings. He's just insane with his varied abilities.
You're right. Apparition's actually really interesting for combat. Like if you had like a targetion mode or something, like you could actually just flashpoint apparitions into the field because he's the freaking Flash. Like you don't have to actually lose control to get or convey the idea that he actually moved from 2 points in the left to shadow range of himself.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that's
it
actually kind of a
and I think one of the other ones was that he can develop such a high amount of kinetic energy that he can form lightning around him. At least that's what the CW TV series can imply. But yeah, overall, it's just wasted potential. Wasted potential just ended up. It just sucks because it sucks whenever something like that, a cool project like that, ends up just falling flat due to mismanagement. It's just a tragedy.
It is. And it definitely sucks, but I will admit, like, not having seen it, I don't know what could have been.
I recommend looking up the.
Character, I don't really see making an easy transition, but with the right team, with what you said, that would be pretty cool.
I strongly recommend you go check out that video on the Flash game. It's actually really interesting to learn about. It's on Did You Know Gaming's channel, so I greatly recommend you look up that video. So what's our time at?
You know, I haven't really been keeping track. I know we're getting.
It is 10:12 right now.
Okay, 9:12 my time, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that would mean that we've got ourselves a good stopping point.
Well, that sounds good. So, thank everyone who's listened this long. And, you know, I hope you'll have a happy Thanksgiving. Plan on releasing it.
Hope you all become good chunks of turkey and gravy balloons.
God knows I will.
Yeah. All right. Have a good one, folks. Bye.
Yep. Sayonara.